perhaps. But to get away from events in the Middle East, it's time to get ready for Christmas, which for many people means the traditional, almost sacred music of Slade, Wizzard or even Bing Crosby playing while you buy all sorts of stuff in crowded shopping centres. Unless, of course, you stay at home listening to proper Christmas carols while ordering all sorts of stuff online. But let's face it, Christmas wouldn't be Christmas without Cliff Richard.
Oh.
And I'm delighted to say that Sir Cliff is here to tell us about his first Christmas album for nearly 20 years, though 2 decades is just a blink of an eye in your extraordinarily long career in music, Cliff. But we're going to start with Sir Cliff Richard, who's been a British music icon since the Beatles were knee-high to the Crickets. His first single, Move It, put him on the rock and roll map in 1958, at the beginning of a career which has now lasted more than 60 years. And he's clocked up more than 60 top 10 singles, made more than 250 million record sales. Then there's successes with albums, Ivor Novello and Brit Awards, as well as appearing every now and then in films, TV programmes, stage shows. Including all this, Cliff has notched up 3 or 4 UK Christmas #1 singles, and this year he's released a whole album of Christmassy songs called Christmas with Cliff. So what is Christmas with Cliff like, Cliff?
Well, I think it's fantastic, you know. But the thing is, you choose the songs. I can't speak for other artists, but really, I only ever record songs that I like. My record company said we'd like a Christmas album. They sent me a list about 150. I didn't know there were so many songs, so I picked out the ones I'd never done before.
Right.
Then I begged them that if I could find 3 new ones. They said, send them to us. So I sent them 3 and they loved them. So they're on there. But the main thing for me about this album is that the dynamics of it. I used 2 producers. One was a straight rock and roll guy. The other guy was a German guy who does stringed instrumentation and slightly pop feel. And what I got, 1 minute I'm singing, Mary, did you know that your baby boy would one day walk on water? And the next time I'm going, rocking around the Christmas. So the dynamics
Yes.
for me, to me is one of the best albums I've made for a long time. But you know, the public are the only ones that can decide whether they like it or not.
Well, I'm glad you're singing various tracks. I've got a track teed up just to listen to, a bit of Heart of Christmas. Tell me about Heart of Christmas before we hear it.
Well, it was written by a friend of mine who lives in Nashville, and he had somebody write it with him, and they wrote it quite a couple of years back, and they sent it to me, but I wasn't doing a Christmas album then, so I said, look, it's so great, I wouldn't blame you if you gave it to somebody else, but if you could hold on to it, I can do it. And they held on to it for me. And it's one of those songs that has the message of Christmas and an incredible chorus. There's a chorus of Holy, holy, holy night, hear the angels screaming out. So it's got this hook as well. So, again, as I say, you make a record that pleases you and you just hope, fingers crossed, that it will please somebody out there.
Well, this is what this track sounds like. We have a little bit of Christmas, one of the tracks on this album.
Well, I mean, I've never seen an audience like this waving their arms in the air.
Well,
fabulous. But,
yeah.
you know, of course, I'm battling with the artist that's probably the biggest selling artist this decade, Stormzy.
Where are you in the battle with Stormzy? How did it result?
Number 2.
Yeah.
But you know what? I keep thinking to myself, look, I've been singing next year for 65 years. Now, there should have been somebody else competing with him, but no. I'm competing him. I'm going up. It's number 2. He's number 1, and there's only one way to go from number 1.
But it's interesting, you and Stormzy against each other, apart from the age difference is noticeable. He sings they're very much personal songs. He's agonising over all sorts of things, not about politics, religion, but also his personal relationships and things. You tend to be, and the same things happen with comedians tend to do this now, they talk about themselves. You're perhaps a little bit old school in that way, that you select a song because it's a good song and sing it, whether it relates to you or not.
If you're a recording artist and you happen to sing, what do you want to do? You want to find the best songs? Yeah. I've sung, one of the most emotional songs was a song called Miss You Nights, which was really about lost love and the loved one being distant anymore, no longer around. Yeah. Even We Don't Talk Anymore, which sounds so happy and was only 2 records have I made that went into the States top 10, and that was one of them. And it says, it's so funny how we don't talk anymore. Yeah. This is a breakup of a relationship, but it goes, it's so funny. Yeah. And everybody's waving their arms in the air, and I'm thinking, this is actually quite a sad song.
I remember interviewing at the time you had your autobiography out. You made the point that you sacrificed a relationship in order to have the successful career that you've gone on to have. Do you ever regret that in any way?
I don't regret it, but when I wrote the book, it came to me that, in point of fact, what did this career do? It took me away from friends and it took me away from family. Because the first 3 or 4 years that my band and I were playing, we hardly home. And so you lost contact.
Yes. Now, I don't know to set up any more rivalries, but this week it's been announced that Elton John he's been doing this long retirement tour, but it's going to be ending up at Glastonbury this year. Are you tempted to follow that example? Not this, because this is his year, but next year.
I've always wanted to be at Glastonbury, but when I saw a couple of shows with a couple of very famous people, I shall not mention them, to me, their voices didn't sound like the record. All you could hear was the boom, boom, and everybody bouncing like this on the front row. So I decided, I don't think I want to do that.
But you're doing some concerts next year.
I'm going to do about eight
some in London and other big cities as well. So you've got that lined up.
6 in London and one in Glasgow, one in Blackpool.
All right, I've got to wind up this here, but I think everyone wants to know, even more than your music, now, how do you retain your youthful appearance?
I've always dieted, and I'm now 82. And I'm number 2 in the charts, and I play tennis. I'm healthy.
Yes.
And health is the main blessing.
Yeah.
If somehow or another you have a healthy body, it must help keep you.
We just want to know the vitamin supplement, the powder, the something, the one thing that's easy to
or
take.
the phone number.
I take 8 vitamins every day and 10 every other day. One of them is keeping me alive. I don't know which one it is, so I take them all.
All right. Well, thank you for coming again, Sir Cliff Richard. Christmas with Cliff is available now, and we stay in the world of music with. Can I ask a naive question? Would you say things have improved, or are you still thinking it's a battle yet to be fought?
I would be naive to say that things have not improved. They have improved. I mean, Sir Cliff is talking about being number 2 to Stormzy at the moment.
Yeah.
Stormzy, is this nation's favourite pop artist, or one of this nation's favourite pop artists, and I'm sure that he would love to work with you, and I'm not speaking for Stormzy. But
the funny thing is, I think that rock and roll changed a lot for people like me.
Yeah.
We were playing records by somebody called Chuck Berry and Little Richard. It was only until we saw a photograph that we just thought he was black.
Yeah.
And when I first did my tour in the 60s, 1960, Clyde McPhatter was on the show, Sammy Turner, the Isley Brothers. My band and I were in and out of dressing rooms all the time, because all we said was, these are the people, we bought their records, and who cares whether they're black? So I always felt that that was the time when we started to clean our act up, and there's so much still to be ashamed of.
In the 1960s, Star Trek broke the color bar because, for the first time on television, white Captain Kirk kissed black Uhura.
Yeah.
And because of that, our ratings plunged.
Really?
Many stations in the American South, in Louisiana, Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama, refused to air that. So that was our worst rated show, but it was groundbreaking.
Sure. Well, I think it's a groundbreaking place to end it. But thank you, George. But thank you, Simon Frederick, Faces of Fame, G.F. Watts, and Simon Frederick is at the Watts Gallery in Compton. Sorry, you should got it straight out of Compton, shouldn't you? Compton, Surrey, until the 26th of March. That's the loose ends tied up for another week. If you've just missed the programme, if you want to hear it again, it's available for your listening pleasure on BBC Sounds, along with previous loose ends